Joining us right now is a friend of this program. She used to be a regular guest. She's got a busy life, I'll tell you that, and she certainly worked at the Pentagon during the first Trump administration. She is Amber Smith. She's also a combat war veteran who flew helicopters for the U.S. Army. And Amber, you came to mind as we saw the tragic events over the Potomac the other night. So I appreciate you joining us to sort of lend your expertise to this equation.
Absolutely. Good morning. It's great to be with you guys.
And by the way, her book, Danger Close, My Epic Journey as a Combat Helicopter Pilot in Iraq and Afghanistan, is a great book. I gave it to my daughter, who wears the uniform of the Navy right now, and she appreciated the read very much. Amber, you didn't fly Black Hawks, but can you, based on what you've seen right now, and based on what you know about these aircraft and about what goes on in the airspace in Washington, D.C., do you have anything that you can lend to this conversation that sort of sticks out to you and says, gee, that doesn't quite seem right?
Yeah, there's a handful of things, but initially, based on my experience as an Army helicopter pilot, I flew for almost 8 years, and based on the audio footage and the visuals that have come out, it appears as if the Black Hawk helicopter, confirmed visual on the traffic of the wrong aircraft, and they likely never even saw that because of the proximity to the correct aircraft. They likely never even saw it as they crashed into it.
So if I could real quickly, Amber, is there a product, because there's a lot of planes, right? There's planes taking off, multiple planes landing. Anyone who's ever, taken off or landed at Reagan know that. So is there not a protocol for air traffic control to sort of confirm, okay, you say you see the plane. Which plane do you see? You know what I mean? I hate to be flip about it.
Exactly. So that's my issue as well. It only works for Tower to say, hey, do you have the landing traffic? That only works when you're at like a Class D airport that has zero traffic other than the only traffic that Tower is talking about. So when you're talking about a metropolitan airport in the middle of Washington, D.C., where it has these helicopter corridors where helicopter traffic is constantly flying up and down them. We have D.C. police, Park police, all the different military and VIP transports that are going up and down there. It has gotten very congested. And so, and then you add in Reagan, which is multiple flights coming, going, taking off, different runways, being the landing runway, and frequent changes. And so when you have that happening, and we heard the audio between Tower and the helicopter, which is, do you have confirmation of the CRJ, meaning the type of jet that was flying? Okay, well, there's lots of those types of jets that come into Reagan. They didn't give them a heading. They didn't say, do you have the CRJ at your 11 o'clock that's about to cross right in front of your nose at a couple 100 feet distance? They never said that. So in the Towers, in ATC's mind, they're describing the aircraft in their own mind. And this is where communication, no one gives communication enough credit in some of these operational worlds, but they are the absolute foundation for risk management and safe operations. And so there was a very clear breakdown. The helicopter crew, they thought they were talking about one aircraft, and Tower was obviously talking about another.
So, Amber, we're getting reports now. The New York Times reported yesterday, according to a preliminary FAA report, that the supervisor dismissed one of the controllers, and so one controller was handling the jobs of two, meaning that one controller who should have been keeping their eyes on the helicopter and a second one keeping their eyes on the multiple aircrafts. Now, one person was doing the job of two people. Do you think that could have contributed to kind of that miscommunication or the shortened communication? Where, as you're saying, maybe what was communicated was not specific enough, given all of the different traffic going on. Could that lack of coverage of controllers staffing have been a contributing factor here?
100%. The more all of this happens, the more I want to look into what was going on inside that tower, what leadership decisions were made that allowed a busy air tower to operate at such reduced staffing. And I want to know, what is the standard? What is the standard where at some point somebody has to make the call to cease operations because they're not safely manning a tower? And here's what I want people to think about. If you go to buy an airline ticket and you say, oh, I'm flying into DCA Reagan, they're going to be at 50% manning on Tuesday. Do I want to fly into Reagan or do I want to fly into a different airport? People don't have the choice to know that information. Why are airports operating this way? And now that we've seen that at Reagan, across the country, what other airports are operating at severely cut staff at these towers?
Amber Smith is our guest, and she flew Army helicopters in combat in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And Amber, I'd love for you to comment also on President Trump's statements yesterday and Secretary of Defense Hegseth's statements about the push, it appeared, during the Obama administration and the Biden administration to elevate individuals into critical positions, not based on merit or skill or experience, but based on other factors for the sake of diversity and equity. You actually wrote a book called Unfit to Fight. It should be clear, it is not unfit to serve, it is unfit to fight, how woke policies are destroying our military. So I think that you have some perspective on this as a female veteran who did, in fact, fly in combat. What do you make of this controversy now in the discussion that's happening?
Well, it is fact. DEI is running rampant through the federal government. Like you just mentioned, I wrote a book on it about how it's affecting the military, but it's not just the military. It is the federal government where it has been allowed it has been pushed, and it is a significant problem. But when we're talking about ATC, we are not talking about a job where you're sitting behind a desk and you do some analysis on paperwork. You are responsible for, the avoidance of air traffic and keeping people safe. And so that it absolutely cannot apply. This is incredibly dangerous. And obviously the investigation is going to get down to the bottom of many different layers. And so not just, who was in the tower and do DEI principles apply, but leadership and who was allowing operations and the mismanagement of this to go along. Was someone in a significant leadership position because of the DEI policies that had been in place? All that stuff I want to see. I do believe that it's a significant problem based off of the research that I have done.
And you need to communicate to the American people what your priorities are. And at a moment like this, we have to have faith and trust when we sit in an airplane and we're landing at Reagan that the best of the best are there and we're in safe hands. And we don't have that trust right now, Amber.
And that's the opposite of DEI. That's merit, and that's what we need.
Exactly.
That's what we need. Yes.
Amber, great talking with you. We love your insights on everything, frankly.
Yes.
You're a great observer of politics and pop culture. We've always enjoyed having you in studio back in the day, I remember, co-hosting with you sometimes. And but certainly on this issue, you are an absolute must-get. So we were great talking with you. And
Thanks,
don't be
Amber.
a stranger. Keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
You too.
It is 8:26.